We're going to talk some Jax State Athletics now. We welcome on the athletic director for Jacksonville State University. That is Mr. Greg Seitz. He joins us now. Greg, good morning. How are you today?
Good morning, Chase. How are you?
I'm doing great. Appreciate your time coming on with us here, as I know it is a busy time for you and everything. But just wanted to talk with you on what a banner year for Jax State Athletics. And we've talked about it plenty here on the show. I mean, football, Conference USA champs. You had men's basketball compete for the conference championship, softball, baseball, women's golf finish runner-up in the Conference USA. Just an extraordinary year for the athletics at Jax State.
It really is, Chase. And, when you look at it, because I know, a lot of people are saying, I wonder why they're, moving up to Conference USA and, will they be able to compete? And, here we are in year two, and, we had probably the best year we've ever had in our history of our athletic department. So very excited about, the year that we had as well.
And I wanted to talk to you as well, obviously a new era in football and Charles Kelly being hired in the off season to take over the football program after Rich Rodriguez departs back to West Virginia. I'm curious, the process. I know Jax State had to be an appealing job to a lot of folks in college football. Talk about kind of the process of bringing Charles Kelly in to be the next head football coach.
Yeah, and that's a great question. And first off, I want to thank Coach Rich Rod and everything he did for our football program. We set a lot of records and made a lot of history by going to 2 bowl games in our first 2 years of eligibility. So, he really put us on the map. So our job was very appealing. We had so much interest, Chase, in our job. And then, just at the end of the day, when it came down to it, we just felt like that Charles was the right person for our job. And for the folks, and I'm not sure if you had a chance to have him on yet, but he got his start at Auburn, played for Coach Dye down there, and then actually his first job was here at Jacksonville State from 1994 to 99. He was an assistant coach with Bill Burgess. So we had some familiarity with him, with Charles, and just he was the National Recruiter of the Year in 2021, and just had a lot of great experience and got a lot of recommendations from some high-level coaches and stuff on him, and just very excited to have Charles on board leading our football program. And
what was that like? Because I know the hiring process and the way college football is with recruiting now and kind of the calendar and playing in a bowl game and hiring a coach really that same day. Kind of talk about how that was and how that is now just in college sports and especially college football, the way the calendar is and trying to hire a coach in a certain amount of time.
Yeah, and that's a great question. And so, once I realized that, it appeared that Coach was going to go back to West Virginia and stuff, we didn't have a whole lot of time, to be honest, because my goal was really to try and get the coach in place before our kids left Orlando from the bowl game. And so we were fortunately able to do that. We brought in four in-person candidates and actually brought them down to Orlando to the bowl game and then just went through that whole process. I did about, 20-plus Zoom interviews the weekend prior to that, and then we brought the four finalists down to the bowl game. We interviewed them and actually made the offer the night before our bowl game, and Charles accepted that. Then we had him there in Orlando, so at the end of the game I was able to introduce him for that. And, and a couple of important things for that was, I wanted to tell the team in person. I didn't want them to leave. And now with the date of the transfer portal and stuff, I just wanted, I wanted our guys to know, before they went home for Christmas who our new coach was. And thought we did, from a roster management standpoint, I thought it really paid off for us because we were able to, keep a lot of those guys together. I mean, we did have some turnover, which you're always going to have with the roster nutrition, but for the most part, we were able to, to kind of keep that whole group together. So.
We're talking with Jax State Athletic Director Greg Seitz and another coach at Jacksonville State who's had a ton of success is Ray Harper, and he agreed to a 4-year contract extension as well this offseason. He's another guy. It's so great to have him on campus and have him leading the men's basketball program.
Yeah, man, we're very excited about Coach Harper and everything he's been able to accomplish. We've obviously with the success that we had, and just really we finished runner-up in the regular season, and then played Liberty all the way down to the wire there in the Conference USA basketball championship game, and then getting the opportunity to go play in the NIT, and just had that great win over Georgia Tech in the first round, and go out to UC Irvine where we were just a couple of shots away from being able to advance in the NIT. He does an outstanding job for us. So it was very happy to get him, secured there and locked down for another 4 years. When you look back and all the postseason success under his leadership, he's been here 9 years. We've been in the postseason 4 times out of those 9 years, including 2 trips to the NCAA tournament. The guy can really, really coach, and we're glad that he, we're able to lock him down for the next several years.
Baseball and softball, too, fun to watch this season. And when you have both of them playing in the Conference USA Championship, finishing runner-up, of course, Julie Bolin in her first year, she's been around a long time at Jacksonville State, but first year as head coach, and Steve Bees are able to get the Gamecocks to the Conference Championship in year 2. It was a special season for both baseball and softball as well.
Yeah, it really was. I think our fans kind of got spoiled when we were in the OVC because we were, playing in those championship games pretty much every spring, being one of the most southern teams in that league. But when you talk about 2 really, really outstanding programs in a great league, our baseball team, when you look outside the Power 4 conferences, Conference USA Baseball was the next highest ranked conference, and there's 29 conferences out there, Chase. And when you realize that, Jax State was the 5th best baseball conference, and then our softball league was the 8th best conference in Conference USA. The competition certainly has heightened, but, so proud of Coach Julie and what she was able to do. And then obviously Coach Beezer in our second year in and getting us in a position to have a chance to win it. And, our baseball team lost in extra innings there, but Dallas Baptist is such a really, really good team. They were a 2 seed, and they went to the Baton Rouge Regional. And so, really, really good. And I think that's one of probably the best days in Jax State baseball history when you look at the competition, what they were able to do on that Saturday to come back and beat Dallas Baptist twice. That was a huge deal. And then for Liberty, they went to a super regional on the softball side for Coach Julie and them to come in and beat them 7-2 to advance to the championship side of the softball bracket. We're just, it certainly gives us some bright days ahead, we feel like.
Jax State Athletic Director Greg Seitz joining us. And, look, a lot of the conversation this week has been dominated by the House settlement that happened last Friday night becoming official. And I'm curious, just from your perspective, your point of view, being over an athletic department at a group of 5 school, how do you feel this now changes athletics, and specifically the athletic department that you oversee?
Well, honestly, it's probably, when you go back and look at the history, there's, it's probably the 3rd most important decision that's ever happened in that. When the association was formed back in 1909, and then when Title IX came in the late 70s, early 80s, and now this House settlement, it's certainly changing, the way that we're going to operate college athletics. There's, in my mind, there's no doubt that we want the kids to have the opportunity to come in and earn some money from an NIL standpoint and from those endorsements and stuff. And hopefully this House settlement, what it will do will, at least give us some level playing rules now. And so we all kind of, can operate, and we know what those rules are now, Chase, moving forward. So it's just kind of been the wild, wild west, for the last several years. And, NIL in my mind, I don't think it was really used for, what the initial intent was, and there was probably some pay to play, which certainly wasn't the intent of that in the beginning. So I think now we finally got, okay, hey, we've got some guardrails, and so now we kind of, know how we're going to operate here for the next 8 to 10 years. So it's really a good thing.
Do you see it kind of having? Will you have to change your approach on how you lead Jax State Athletics based on this? Like, will it force you to have to change some things or anything like that? I know there's so much unknown to this. It's brand new, but do you see having to change things up any from your part of things?
Yeah, internally, I mean, that's a great question. Internally, certainly we'll have some, changes. I don't think the average fan and stuff will kind of notice some of those changes of what we're doing. We are creating some more opportunities for some of our kids to earn some scholarships because of the new roster limits. So you're going to see some sports, Chase, that are actually going to benefit from that. And, for example, I'll use our baseball and softball programs, where in the past baseball has only had 11.7 scholarships. And, now we're going to be able to increase those scholarship limits for that, and the same with softball. And so we're, certainly going to invest in those sports from a scholarship standpoint. We're adding probably close to 50 additional scholarships for our student athletes. So you're able to reward a lot of those kids now with some scholarships where maybe they were paying their own way as a walk-on in the past. So that's going to be one of the, major changes, as we go through. And then also just kind of navigating those roster limits moving forward. For example, football is going to be at 105 instead of the traditional, 120, 125. So just give us a little time to go through and navigate those roster limits. Are probably going to be the biggest things that we deal with over the next year or so.
Yeah, how have you seen NIL at Jax State specifically? Obviously we see all these things of the Power 4 schools and the major programs, all these deals. How have you just seen kind of the progression and the integration of NIL at Jacksonville State over the last couple of years?
Yeah, well, the biggest thing is probably going to impact us, and we've certainly, we've got some kids that have the opportunity to go out and get the NIL, and the one that comes to mind is like Brock Rex-Steiner, who just signed with WWE. And of course, his family has a long history with that, and that's a great thing for Brock because he wants to get into professional wrestling once his football career is over. But the revenue share is probably going to be, an opportunity for us, to help. As we go in and recruit new student athletes and things. But, Chase, I don't think it's a surprise to anybody. I mean, obviously our group of 5 or 6, however you want to refer to it now, I mean, we certainly don't have the revenue that the Power 4 has. But, we do have some revenue, and for us to have the opportunity to, share that back with our student athletes is, it's really a good thing for us. So we're excited about that.
Yeah, and I've been seeing these numbers kind of toss around, and the number that came out the other day is you have $20.5 million to do what you want to with, and I know everybody doesn't have that, but is it kind of up to the athletic director of, hey, I want to spend this much on this sport, not as much on this, let's put a lot into this? Is it kind of up to each school how they want to do the revenue sharing part of it?
Yeah, it is 100%. That's a great point. And, obviously, we don't have that type of revenue, here at Jacksonville State. And honestly, very few I'm not sure of any group of 5 schools that's going to have $20.5 million to share with their student athletes there. So, that number is going to be, far less for that. But it is an opportunity to, help some of these kids out that, truly need the help with the expanded scholarships, with the expanded medical coverage that we're able to provide to them. And, I think through the years, Chase, we've done probably not a really good job of explaining to folks how much a college scholarship is actually worth because, we feed these kids every day with a meal scholarship, and then we provide medical coverage. They have access to our athletic trainers. And, we provide snacks and you get an education. And so, an athletic scholarship at Jacksonville State, by the time all in, when you go through and look at those things, was probably around, 40 to 45,000 per kid. But, we didn't do a great job of explaining that just to the general public to say, hey, these kids are still getting a great value. And we all know that with a college scholarship over a lifetime, how much your personal earnings, how much it increases more just with that scholarship and that college degree. So this is a great opportunity for us to kind of hit that reset button, Chase, and come back and really show the true value of what a scholarship is. So now once we sign a kid, we actually break all that down and show them what the entire value of that athletic scholarship is now.
Really good stuff there. Greg Seitz, he is the athletic director at Jacksonville State, and he joins us this morning to talk through Jax State Athletics and how it affects the House settlement here. Greg, really appreciate your time coming on, joining us this morning. Great information as always. We will hopefully catch you up with you again soon, but thanks so much for your time this morning.
Sounds great. Thanks so much for having me on.
Thank you very much. That is Jacksonville State Athletic Director Greg Seitz.